How many jobs have you had in your lifetime? How many jobs have you had in the past 5 years? Well, regardless of what your answer is, I bet it's not 52. And yet, my guest today, Sean Aiken, founder of the oneweekjob.com project, had 52 jobs in 1 year. And I welcome him to the program today. Welcome to Wise Guys, my guest, Sean Aiken. Sean, this is a little bizarre for most people watching. Tell us a little bit about your project and where you came about this concept or this idea for working 52 to a different job every week for a year.
Yeah, well, it kind of goes back to my last year in college. We're sitting around the dinner room table and we're discussing, what should Sean do after he graduates. And my sister, playing the big sister role, decided to put me on the spot and said, Sean, so what are you going to do after you graduate? And of course, everybody had their expert opinion, even grandma piped in there. But my dad was the only one who didn't have a specific career path in mind. And he said, Sean, it doesn't matter what you do, whatever it is, just make sure it's something you're passionate about. I've been alive nearly 60 years and I've yet to find anything I'm passionate about besides your mother.
Ooh.
Yeah, out and earn some brownie points. And, something that really stuck with me, and it made me realize how many people are in similar situations, doing a job 20 to 30 years and not necessarily enjoying doing it. And so that night I made a promise to myself that I'd find something that I was passionate and I wanted to find something that I loved doing. And so I started looking at some job boards and job search engines, and I realized that I had no idea what I was looking for in a career or where these passions lie. And so I came up with the idea and I thought, well, what if I was able to go out and try these different jobs? And that way I could see what I like and what I don't like. And so I came up with the idea and created the website, oneweekjob.com, and said that anybody, anywhere in the world, could offer me a job for 1 week. And that for 1 year I'd go around and try out these different jobs. And so that developed and it worked.
Fantastic. 52 jobs in 1 year. Tell me about some of the jobs you had, Sean.
Some of the jobs that range everything from as a cowboy in Wyoming to an advertising executive to a firefighter in Florida to a baker in Brooklyn, fashion buyer in Manhattan, Hollywood producer to park ranger in Hawaii, veterinarian, all across the board.
Well, I'm sure everyone wants to know, what was the weirdest job you had? The absolute weirdest of all the jobs.
The weirdest job? Weirdest/worst job, I was working in a swamp. 12-hour days in the swamp. It was probably 100-degree heat in the middle of summer, and it was a company that picks cattails and then they process them and sell them to high-end restaurants. And so basically the day was 12 hours in this stinky swamp and this scorching heat, and that was definitely the worst job I had. Okay,
now people are going to wonder, what was the best job you had?
The best job, my answer always changes for that because they're just always so different. 1 week I was working as a cancer fundraiser and I really enjoyed that. Another one was working in the world's largest aquarium in Atlanta in Georgia. I definitely also liked the park ranger in Hawaii.
Wow.
In the middle of winter.
Fantastic. Well, you forgot to mention that job as a motivational speaker, Sean.
Yes. I left that on purpose, I was joking. Week 44, I worked with Eric Chester here in Denver, and that was a really positive experience. I got to follow along with Eric at a couple of talks, one in Boulder, one here in Denver, and that was really eye-opening for me. Eric actually passed over the mic to me in one of the talks, and I was able to tell my story and to kind of see the faces of the kids, these high school kids, light up and be inspired by my story. It was kind of really kind of led me down that path, and I was like, oh, you know what? I think maybe this might be my passion and kind of might want to follow this path.
Well, you did an excellent job too. The students really loved you. And Sean, I know you didn't start out to make oneweekjob.com your career, but in the process you learned a whole lot about yourself and about maybe this thing called a career. What were some of the most eye-opening lessons you learned along the way?
I think the most eye-opening for me was that the real world is not so scary. I think we were kind of brought up in school and thinking that, they even call it the real world. When you get to the real world, we're preparing you for it. And so it was kind of, I realized that getting out there and meeting all these different people and trying out these different jobs is that, they're just real people like anyone. And it's not that big of a deal. And so that was a huge thing for me. Also, the other big thing I learned is that it's okay not to know. After I graduated, I put a lot of pressure on myself that I had to have all the answers. I need to decide what I wanted to do with my life, and I need to decide fast. And after meeting people who have had a bunch of different career changes, making a career change late in life, in their 50s, I realized that it's okay not to know, and that most adults still don't know what they want to do when they grow up. And it's a continual process as we're learning and growing new things. And so what makes me happy today is not necessarily the same thing that's going to make me happy 5 years down the road.
Well, turnover is a big challenge for everyone watching this video in their respective businesses, and naturally, companies, organizations spend so much money recruiting and training and hiring the right kind of people that they don't want to lose them. Having 52 different jobs meant you had 52 different bosses,
right.
Managers. What did you see managers do that you thought to yourself, looking back, if I had this kind of a job more than just 1 week, I'd probably be looking to quit? Were there any things that you thought, geez, this kind of employer is completely turning their employees away?
Yeah, a couple jobs, I guess, stand out in mind, and I found that it was the situations where I felt that the employer didn't trust me with the task at hand. Is that I'd be assigned a certain task, and then almost as if they were watching over my shoulder to make sure that I did it correct, and I didn't have that freedom to kind of solve the problem on my own. Another situation that was just really terrible was I had a few different bosses, with different expectations. And so for me, trying to please one boss would put me in conflict with another person's expectations
Wow.
of me. And so it was kind of in a no-win situation for me. And so that was really difficult. So I would have appreciated more to kind of know who am I reporting to, and what is actually expected of me.
Well, then let's ask that question in reverse. What jobs did you have that made you think, gosh, I wish I wasn't on this 52-week job thing, because I would really like to work here for a career?
There was I worked with a microbrewery called Steam Whistle, and the co-founder and the president and the CEO are just two amazing guys, and they are just like any of the other employees. They just they cultivate such a fun work environment. And talking with some of the employees there, just telling me how much they love the job and how much pride they take into it. For example, I asked one guy, I said, well, what is your job here at Steam Whistle? And he wouldn't give me a definitive answer. He kept saying, I am Steam Whistle. this is my family, and he's kind of really taken over the brand. Another girl I talked to has been there for a few years and works on the bottling line. And so if you can imagine, this is not the greatest of jobs. It's a straight up production line, putting the beers in boxes, and just one after the other. It's really monotonous. And she said, when she's at the liquor store and she sees a box of Steam Whistle beer, and she looks at the date and she knows that she worked on that day that she bottled it, she takes a lot of pride in the fact that she was a part of that. And I think that really comes from the leadership of the president and the CEO, and just treating their employees with respect.
Well, I know you've seen a lot of things from a totally different perspective than any of us have seen. So now what happens with the 52-week job process? This 1 week job, where do you take it from here?
So now I got a book deal actually with Random House, and so I've been working on the book the past 8 months, and so that'll be published next spring. And we're also, my best friend joined me about week 19, and we started filming the different jobs and interviewing employers about how they got to where they did in their careers, and what they like about their job, and advice they have for young people coming out of school not sure what they want to do with their life. And so we're compiling all that footage into about an hour and a half long documentary that takes like my unique experience and kind of provide an inspiring look at educating youth that how do we find out what we want to do with our life.
Well, Sean, it's been fabulous having you here and sharing these insights with us. I know the people watching across this network who employ youth and are really fascinated about the mindset of youth are going to be able to get a lot out of this particular program. So we wish you the best of luck in the 1 week job process. We'll be watching for not only your book from Random House, but also your documentary. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
Until next time, this is Eric Chester for Wise Guys.